know if you can see it, but there's a tear in my eye. It was something really, really dumb. Well, maybe I spoke too soon. I'm sitting around 35, 40 miles an hour, cruising comfortably at 12.6, 12.7 on the AFR. And I'm like a very light throttle here, maybe like an 8 throttle. Watch what happens when I stomp on it. Hear that? Blah, 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 blah. It's like bogging down. So from 40. Man, that's some nasty stuff. So barely on the throttle. We'll just say not on the throttle at all, and I'll just punch it. Dang, is that hard on this thing or what? I couldn't get it to lurch like that once the truck warmed up a little bit more, so I'm wondering if it's some sort of transition with my kickdown lever coming on too early, because that's right where it wants to shift. So I'm thinking maybe it's more of a transmission linkage problem than a carburetor problem, but I've never heard it backfire like that. So another thing I think it could be is I switched from manifold vacuum advance to ported vacuum advance, and that delivery or lack of vacuum right there might have caused my timing to be incorrect. So I'm not sure I'm ready to switch back to manifold quite yet. I have only maybe 5 miles on it now, but what I am going to do is I'm going to advance my timing a little bit and see how that affects my AFR gauge. Okay, got the distributor moved just a little bit. We'll check it for what it's at back at the shop, but typically on my truck, when this vacuum advance is exactly straight with the motor, the timing is about 14 degrees advanced. Check that out. We are a lot leaner now with that advanced timing, so we'll see how we run, but yeah, we're definitely like a full point leaner, which is kind of strange because my other carburetor went a full point richer. We're still at 12s and 13s. I don't notice much of a difference. I think I've only changed it about 2 degrees of timing, but I'm gonna pull over here and one more time try to do this burnout. We're climbing up into the 14s on decel. I don't know what's going on with the truck right now, but it's starting to backfire and spit. And I got a little bit of a tick going right now. I'm worried an exhaust valve isn't closing all the way or a push rod is bent. I can't tell, but you can maybe hear it in the background, the bump, 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 bump. It's not quite a bog, but it sounds like it's firing out of the exhaust. So I'm gonna drive the truck back to my shop. I'm gonna have to take a different car home today. It doesn't sound good. Definitely a ticking noise. And a popping, kind of like a popping on deceleration, but da, 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 da. Not happy about that. That sucks. Under the engine bay, see cylinder 5, 6, 7, cylinder 7's exhaust, super loose. Look at the push rod movement on that. So that indicates a low lifter, and looks like the intake of 6 was also loose, but not like that. Jesus. So short of a few lifters going loose, none right now. This one a little bit. Sometimes they'll get really loose, but I mean, you crank the motor over and they'll pressurize. For peace of mind, I just kind of pulled them apart and looked at them, but I couldn't find a single thing wrong with them. There is a bit of metal coming out of the oil, out of the push rods. I don't see what it could be, so I'm just gonna try to put everything back the way I know it to go. I'm gonna put the old distributor cap back on. There's not much here to do, so I guess I just need to start it back up and see if it's making more noise. So back out here working on the motor. Got the top end all ripped off. I know my shirt's over there, but I was up all night and I was just having a hell of a problem falling asleep without figuring out what's going on. So I'm out here and sure as shit, exactly what I thought it was, a burnt cam. I burnt up these hydraulic lifters, burnt up the cam, caused all sorts of damage. So this is where that metal came from. I need to look in there and inspect to make sure my cam is good, but this thing's toast, completely and totally toast. So I don't know if it's from the lifter getting stuck in the channel from debris and not moving, but man, this thing's gone. So I'm thinking my cam's probably bad as well, and I think this might be a catastrophic failure. So I'm gonna pull every single one of these rockers off, every single push rod off, and every single lifter off. And I'm gonna show you the extent of the damage. But I can't believe it got this bad in just that little bit of time. But I'll get this all pulled out and show you what it looks like. Here we have all the lifters, push rods, and rockers pulled. This is cylinder, what's that gonna be, 5 here, then 6, then 7, then 8. This is going to be intake, I believe. No. This will be exhaust, intake, exhaust, intake, exhaust, intake, exhaust, intake. And we can see right here is the only damaged one. But you can see it is severely damaged. It is totally wiped out, impossible to reuse. So just for fun, I'm gonna pull the other side and get the other side laid up here just in case. And then I'm gonna have to put my borescope in there and inspect the cam. Well, I'll tell you, I'm darn sure I pulled out every single push rod, every single lifter, because check it out. So this is an intake of cylinder 4. This is the exhaust of cylinder 4. Look at that. Terrible wear. Just dreadful. And we take a look at 4 of the intake. Just fine. I mean, there's the typical round wear because this actually is tapered here. This has a hump. And your cam is not straight up and down. It's tilted. That way it's the least amount of surface area contact. And this will actually roll as the cam rolls on it. So really cool way they designed them. But as you can see, this one did not roll with it. This one just got ate out for a long time. So this lifter has completely failed. That again is the intake, or the exhaust of 4, and the intake of 1, 2. So the intake of 2 and the exhaust of 4 are completely obliterated. So I'm gonna fire up this camera, my borescope that I've used in other videos, and we are going to inspect the cam as best we can from the top. But it's not looking good. I'm not holding high hopes. I'm more inclined to put a different motor in at this point. However, if the cam shows no unusual signs of wear, we're just gonna put in different lifters and push rods. So I've pulled out every single push rod, every single lifter, and I'm darn good I did it. And I'm darn glad I did it. So we have the intake of cylinder 1, 2, which is on the other side, so it's actually 5, 6. Intake of 6 completely destroyed, as well as the exhaust from 4. Totally bad. So I'm going to take my bore scope camera and I'm going to run it through the motor. Not looking optimistic, not looking good. So worst case scenario, I'm just going to put a 400 in from another truck I have laying around, but definitely some catastrophic failure here. So we'll see how the cam is. The cam has to be prime for us to rebuild this and be happy with it. So get the camera charged up, see what happens. This motor is going to be put back together with new push rods, new lifters, same intake, same everything. And we're going to roll the dice. We're going to roll the dice on this one because it's not looking very good. I don't know what caused the lifters to fail in the first place. I was beating on it a little bit. You know, I was pushing it to its limit, especially with the new intake and the new carburetor. So it had never seen horsepower like that. Not that it was that much, maybe 20, 30 horsepower more, but who knows. So there was a lot of metal in the lifter channel or hole, whatever you want to call it. And so the lifter that I was test fitting kept getting stuck, but I got it cleaned out really good now. So number 5, number 6 intake goes right here. Watch how good that slides in and out. Right in, right out. And I cleaned every single one of these. They all move in and out like that. So makes me feel a lot better. Gonna do a really good job cleaning after I take all this damn gasket material. I knew that was gonna bite me in the ass. So whatever, live and learn. So I'll take all that gasket material off, take that rear gasket off, and start assembling. So I got the carb back on, got the intake back on. Still having the problem. The ticking has completely gone away. So I think we had 2 problems. 1, lifter failure. 2, right now I'm leaning towards jump timing a little bit. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a tear in my eye. It was something really, really dumb. And I knew it could be the problem, but I really didn't want to admit to myself that a part that's only been in the truck for about a couple weeks could fail. And especially at such a terrible time. So hopefully not, hopefully I put a new ignition box on. And by new, I mean just used off of another truck, just new to this one. But all the hesitation, all the bog, all the problems completely gone away. So that means I've wasted about 3.5 days and hours and hours and hours of my time. Not that my time is worth a damn, but to me it is. It's running great now. I don't know what the hell. And hopefully it stays like this, but man, no hesitation, no problem. It's bullshit. I've changed out so many parts on this. I've looked over this truck so many dang times. It's a good feeling, but a bad feeling. So we're gonna count this as a win amongst many losses, but it's running now. I got a lot of buttoning up to do because everything's half torn apart, you know, but it sounds good, it looks good, it drives good. And best of all, and this is another thing, I should probably make a damn video on this, but this RPM gauge was bouncing up and down, and I'm like, man, that should not be doing that, even with a misfire. So how the RPM gauge works is essentially you got your power for your lights, your light circuit, you got your ground, but all it taps into is your coil. And the only signal your coil gets is from your brain box, and your brain box will tell the coil when to ground out, when to fire. So as a misfire, I guess misfire, it wasn't backfiring, but it was misfiring. As it would do that, the RPM gauge would bounce up and down as if it was getting multiple grounds at once. So that's what kind of led me to the direction that I was like, I just kind of put my foot down. And I said, look, it's either this box or it's a carburetor. I need to quit messing around with the distributor, because I retimed it. I rechecked the harmonic balancer. I checked my cam timing. Man, I checked so much stuff. I pulled other distributors off other trucks. I pulled other distributors apart. Man, I really dove into this thing, and the whole time it was something so freaking stupid. So I think I'm actually going to walk away from this a little bit. so I can come back in a good mood that I fixed it. And I'm just gonna go work. I'm gonna work on something. I'm gonna mow the lawn, something. I need a win, a real win. So I didn't do a video of putting the intake manifold back on. I didn't record putting the carburetor back on, doing the valley pan again, putting any of the lifters in or anything like that. It's a very straightforward process, and in all reality, I was really upset with myself thinking that I destroyed the motor, when in reality it was just that electronic box. But a little background, I took all the lifters out of a 400 motor I had out in the weeds that I pulled other parts off in the past. Actually, the intake and the carburetor came off that truck. So the push rods were readily available, the rockers were readily available, and lifters were readily available. However, it was a running, driving truck, but the lifters were in terrible condition. Approximately a quarter of them were ruined. Push rods were all great, but the rockers were all completely worn out. And these are aftermarket rockers, by my eye. I can't say for sure other than the markings, and they're made just a little bit different, but they're still stamped rockers. So I'd like to show you that. Here's the worst of the lifters. The other ones were bad, but not failed, I should say. Now, I used 2 of the lifters, the best 2, but I'll tell you almost all of them were really worn out. So this is the best of them. You can see the swirling and you can see the ring in the center. So this one could probably be used. However, it has a really bad oil leak. I was having problems with it staying pumped up. So I ended up putting this one with all the pile of bad lifters. But you can see that's extreme wear, and it's actually dished right now. There's a dish in here. This is probably the least of the failed ones, but look at that. That is completely failed. That has completely failed to the point where you can recognize extreme wear in the motor. That has completely failed. Huge deep dish. I mean, that's really catastrophic there. And these 2 here were from the motor in the Bronco currently. So very similar failure. And the worst of it, the worst lifter was the one that was clacking. So I'm gonna say if you got clacking lifters, pull that intake off as soon as possible. But all in all, lifters go bad. They go really bad. I'm glad I know what was in there now. I'm glad I went through this process to know kind of what to look for in rockers, and what to do with your oil really is what I think it comes down to. So if you do any kind of top end work, like putting on a valve cover, I highly suggest pulling out every single lifter and putting assembly lube on it before you put it back together. Because those oil pans or those valley pans are so dirty, they're so filthy, you have no idea what gets in there. And the only way to get it out is to clean it thoroughly. And if you're cleaning it thoroughly, you're robbing it of the oil. So anytime you do an intake, or at least anytime I'm doing an intake in the future, I'm gonna lubricate everything way overboard. I'm gonna inspect everything, and I'm gonna make sure everything is in line before it goes back together. This was an expensive mistake when you factor in oil, zinc additive, the Lucas petroleum, what else do we get? Valley pans, carb gaskets, just all sorts of stuff that can go wrong associated with this. I mean, you think the real cost of it is like, oh, you just got to do a little bit of oil or whatever, but it adds up. I mean, this was a several $100 mistake. That's the difference of upgrading the intake. It's the difference of upgrading the carb. I could have bought a way nicer carb. I could have bought a way nicer intake. So it's really important to not fail these simple tests and these simple steps. And as anybody, especially as a hobbyist, you don't know what you don't know, and that's kind of the problem. So I hope that you were able to take something out of this video. I'm excited to test the carburetor out. I'm excited to put out reviews on this. But yeah, that's my experience with putting a new carburetor and intake on. It's not the most pleasant experience, but I'm glad I did it. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned, and I'll have another video up Wednesday. Thanks.